All right. Took me a second. Sorry, I'm about a minute late today. But hello and welcome to another Follett House Friday. My name is Jeremy. I am the Museum Services Manager for the Sandusky Library and Follett House Museum. Just a reminder, next week we will not have a Follett House Friday. Next week we're participating in digital programs for the Ohio Open Doors event. So next Friday at noon, we will be doing a behind-the-scenes tour of the archives over in the library with Ron Davidson, and that'll be live here on Facebook. And afterwards, we'll save it and put it up on YouTube. And then Saturday at noon, we'll be doing a behind-the-scenes tour here at the Follett House. And we're going to focus, the tour at the Follett House is going to focus a little bit more about how artifacts come to be part of our collection, which we've talked about on here before, preservation, get a peek into our storage area, collection management, things like that. So it won't be a traditional tour of the Follett House. So the archives behind the scenes tour will be next Friday at noon, and then one of the Follett House will be at Saturday at noon. So with that being said, let's turn to our artifacts this week for Follett House Friday. And because we are busy next week, I've wanted to talk a little bit about these canes. So the reason I wanted to do them next week is next week, September 10th, is the anniversary of the Battle of Lake Erie and Commodore Perry's victory out there. And of course, that's not only important in the War of 1812 and the history there. Locally, of course, it's very important. We have a national park out on the island to commemorate the victory, which is amazing. And of course, it adds a lot of history to the area. And we don't really have a lot of artifacts that tie directly to the Battle of Lake Erie. Besides what we're going to talk about today, we have, I think, one other artifact that directly ties to the battle. We have a lot of artifacts from 1913. So 1913 is when they dedicated the monument, and they had a big celebration and parties and different commemorations out at the island for that. And they actually all stayed at the hotel, the Breakers Hotel out at Cedar Point for that, because it was the biggest hotel and the best hotel in the area in 1913. Anyway, let's get back to the canes. So these canes aren't from the battle, but they are made from wood from Commodore Perry's flagship, the USS Lawrence. And some of you are probably wondering, how did they get wood from that ship, or those ships, to be able to make these canes? And it's kind of a strange story. So the Lawrence did survive the battle. It was disabled during the battle, and Perry had to switch ships mid-battle. We have a painting in the library of it. Some of you know this history. But it did survive the battle. It survived the war. And then, I don't remember if it was the late 1810s, early 1820s, after the ship didn't really serve our purpose anymore, they scuttled her. So that means they intentionally sunk her. And they sunk her near Erie, Pennsylvania. She stayed sunk until 1875. In 1875, they raised what was left of her, cut her up, and took her to Philadelphia, because in 1876, they were having, of course, the centennial celebration of America, and they were going to exhibit part of the ship there. And they did. And afterwards, the plan was to take some of the wood and make it into chairs and canes and things like that for commemoration. And most of that didn't happen, because after the centennial celebration was over in Philadelphia, the exhibit hall burned, and what was left of the ship burned. Now, there sounds like not all the ship burned in that. Most of it did, but there was some of it left in that exhibit hall. That's where these canes may have come from. One of them we would have been taken before that, because we know it was given to someone in 1875. So we do know it was taken before it was actually transported down to Philadelphia. So we'll take, this one is really interesting. So it's not, it doesn't look that fancy. Metal tip at the bottom, cane top, but it has two different engravings. So the first one, the one I'm showing you, and just make sure I have this one, is "We have met the enemy and they are ours." Lake Erie, September 10th, 1813. So that was the victory message that Commodore Perry sent. The other inscription that you have on here, and this one I can't read upside down, I'm sorry. It just says, "Taken from the flagship, March 1836, which is when I believe they so I was wrong. So they scuttled her in 1836, so they would have taken it from that. And that's when this would have been given to someone. And it's really cool that we have this piece of a historic ship that survived and was reused. This one was given as a gift in 1875. This was given to a reverend, and I didn't write his name down. Oh, here it is. Reverend S. Marks, from his friends in Erie, Pennsylvania, and Huron, Ohio. We don't know who the reverend is, but if you look kind of close, you can see how ornate the carving is on this. It's done very well. The inscription is on silver. It is just beautiful. And once again, it has that it was taken from the flagship Lawrence, the date of the battle, and Commodore Perry's quote saying, "We have met the enemy and they are ours." So there isn't that much of the ship left, or original piece of the ship left. So we're very lucky that we have these pieces that were from the ship, and we can pretty much, we know that these are from the Lawrence, taken later in life. And it's just a really neat piece of history. Some of you may have come to our, we had a brown bag program on underwater archaeology in the Battle of Lake Erie, and one of the mysteries in history is exactly where the Battle of Lake Erie took place. We have, of course, proximate locations. We have a decent idea, but we don't know for sure because even though the lake is not super, super deep here, there's enough, they've never been able to pinpoint it and find wreckage and things like that. And of course, it's been, with all the mud and the sand and everything, the lake bottom, it's all been covered over. So hopefully one day we'll be able to actually pinpoint where the exact location of the battle was and things like that. But as of now, we still don't know. So we're very lucky that we actually have pieces from the ship, one of the ships that was there as part of our collection. So with that, I don't see any questions unless my thing's misbehaving, which is also always probable or possible. With that, I'm going to wish you all a wonderful Labor Day weekend. I hope you all enjoy it. And as always, if you have any questions on these artifacts, leave them in the comments. I'm always happy to answer them, even though it's not during the video. I come back and check regularly for questions. And we hope to see you next week for our Ohio Open Doors programs. Once again, the behind the scenes tour of the archives will be on Friday, September, it's the 12th, right? Yeah, so, it's the 11th. Sorry, Friday, September 11th at noon, and then the behind the scenes of the Follett House will be Saturday, September 12th at noon on Facebook Live. And once again, both those videos will go up on YouTube afterwards for people to watch there as well. And with that, thank you and enjoy your weekend.